This episode of the Gooner Ramble podcast is sponsored by the new app called Bookie. That's BOOKEE. Sign up by using the promo code Ramble, deposit and bet £10 and get a free £10 bet. That's Bookie, BOOKEE.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Gooner Ramble podcast. I'm your host Giles, and joining me this evening are the three wise men. We have Akhil at 10. Akhil, how you doing, mate? You right?
Yep, very wise too.
Good. And we've also got Dave at Gooner Dave 66. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Good. And we've also got Was at Was the Gooner from some. You're calling from some cave in deepest. Somewhere in some part of England, I imagine.
Yeah, I'm no longer in South London. I'm now in Bexley Heath. So
going up.
I'm across the Dartford Bridge now, mate. So certainly get about, don't we?
We do indeed. Right. Okay. So we're coming to the end of the wretched interlull. Tonight we've just seen Giroud secure France's place, or help secure France's place in the Russia World Cup finals. We saw on Saturday Wobie do the same for Nigeria. I think we've had a bit of bad news in that Mustafi's definitely out for the Watford game, but it looks like a lot longer than that. And we've had news about, some spurious news about Marc Overmars and the club saying they have categorically, they can categorically confirm that they have not reached an agreement in any capacity about Marc Overmars joining the club. We'll come to that later because that comment was quite odd in itself. But let's kick off with the World Cup qualifiers or our players' participation in it. First of all, we'll start off with the guys that have gone through. So that's Iwobi and Giroud. Good stuff from Iwobi, right, lads? I mean, should do his confidence no end of good. Axe?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's sort of, internationals are those weird things, aren't they? That when you've got players who potentially aren't in your first 11 week in, week out, you sort of want them to go and play for their country because you want them to stay fit. You want them to get match practice. You want them to improve. So for someone like Iwobi, we're obviously quite pleased for him, and even Giroud. I mean, maybe in the past we've been less so, but now we're very happy for Giroud to play for France because it keeps him fit. I think the weird one is, someone like Ramsey, whereas, we obviously want our players to be happy and Aaron Ramsey won't be at the moment. But in terms of for Arsenal, it's obviously a big positive. But then, do we just look at it from a physical point of view and maybe not from a mental point of view that actually will Ramsey now take a couple of games to recover from such a blow or will he kind of be determined to have a good season with Arsenal now? It's difficult to know, but the internationals always confuse me because I just don't know what to think. And I still kind of don't.
Dave, I mean, look, Axe has touched on Ramsey. Xhaka's had an up and down kind of international break. He scored the other night. He's been on the back end of the wrong end of a 2-0. His team have got to go through to the playoffs. We don't know what's going to happen with Alexis Sanchez and Chile. I mean, with the guys coming back off an international break, do you think it will have an effect on a positive or a negative effect on their performances in terms of what happened in these last 10 days?
Oh, it's so difficult to tell, Giles. I mean, confidence obviously is a massive thing in football, but I can't imagine one poor result should affect the confidence of players who are playing well anyway. I think I didn't see why Iwobi didn't start. You know more than me. You follow Nigeria closely, but that's obviously going to have a massive impact on him. 2 goals in a week, so he should be fully confident. As for the other guys, I'm sort of relieved that, on paper at least, we haven't got a massive game this week. I mean, Watford are obviously doing well at the moment, but that's a sort of fixture that hopefully we can ease our way back in with. I certainly wouldn't want to be facing one of the big boys on the back of this international break, as you say, with Alexis not faring as well and a long journey back and without Mustafi. So, Yeah, Ramsey's a big one. I mean, he obviously put so much into playing for Wales. It means so much to him. In fact, I think his effort last night was actually impacting his performance quite severely. But he's the one I would worry about because he's so closely linked to sort of the success story with Wales, and he's been so integral to it that he's the one I would worry about.
Over to you, do you echo those thoughts?
Yeah, firstly, delighted for Alex Iwobi. It's great to see him stepping up for his country in a massive moment. You can't get bigger than that, can you, really?
Yeah.
Securing qualification to the World Cup and coming on as a sub and being that boy and also the way he held his position on the edge of the box, and he just concentrated on getting over the ball and striking it hard, which is something that Iwobi has needed to do for a long, long time for the Arsenal. So I think that's great for him on a personal level, and hopefully it aids towards the progression of his career, and he starts getting a bit more confidence in front of goal for us as well. But fantastic scenes out there, and there was a few great moments in international football. Unfortunately, from an English perspective, international football might as well be dead. But that aside, it was good. With regards to Aaron Ramsey, obviously it will hit him hard, but
Here we go.
No, I'm just saying it's not going to affect him. I don't think it'll affect him too badly mentally. I think he'll be straight back into it and straight back into the game. He's had mental issues throughout his career with speed and his injuries and all that. So at the end of the day, Ramsey, I think, will just take it on the chin. And like Dave said, he was probably trying too hard and it affected his performance due to that. And without Bale there as well, it was almost all on his shoulders. And Joe Allen getting injured early, it become very difficult for Wales. And I think with the exploits of the Euros and all that, there was a bit more expectation on them. And unfortunately, they just didn't have enough to get across the line. But I think physically Ramsey will be back fit, no issue. He's always fine in that sense. I mean, he's the kind of guy that can play 90 minutes and still be running around like a nutter. So, and mentally he should be okay. But big blow with Mustafi. That is definitely a big blow. Nice to see Giroud scoring again. He continues to keep scoring, so that's happy days. And
El Neni as well.
Yeah, and Mo as well. Yeah, you must mention them. Yeah, and Mo Salah doing the bits there for them, and they nearly crashed out, but last minute, and congratulations to them. So yeah, it's definitely. We can talk about the mental effects of international football and things, but I genuinely do think once they're back in training at the Arsenal within a few days, it sort of probably will be out of the system, because at the end of the day, it's a job and it is a big blow. But I think very quickly when you're not with that international squad and you take it in pretty soon, I would have thought that you're not going to be going to the World Cup. Then it's knuckled down and move on from there, mate.
Indeed. You touched on Mustafi. That's a real headache for us in terms
big
of,
blow.
We don't know what's happening with Koscielny. I mean, he was left out of the France squad because he was nursing the Achilles. Not sure what's happening with Callum Chambers. Is he back? Is he not back? Was he? I remember Ben Dinnery, I think it was on Monday, was saying that he didn't mention, actually. I don't think he mentioned Callum Chambers as being back for training yesterday. So I don't know what the situation was with him. I mean, have we got enough to get us through? I know it's Watford. People say it's Watford, but I mean, at home, I mean, they've been pretty good this season, apart from getting tonked by Man City. I mean, you're doing well not to get tonked by Man City these days. Apart from that, they've been pretty good, haven't they, Woz?
Yeah, they have, mate. Ironically, at home is where they've struggled. They won all three of their away games, and they drew 3-3 with Liverpool, which obviously is a very difficult game. They drew 0-0 with Brighton, and then obviously got smashed 6-0 by City. But yes, they are playing well. They are fairly difficult to beat, and it will be a challenge. And we know we've got a decent record at Watford, but there's always goals, and it's going to be a difficult game. And losing Mustafi, and with regards to the centre-back situation, I just think that we're going to be asking huge amounts again of Rob Holding, who is, we've got to remember, he's still an amateur in a sense of playing at the top level. He really is. He's had pretty much next to no football when you look at it, and we've seen him this season struggle at times. And me personally, I think if Koss is okay, which we don't know if he is, I mean, I know Dave will agree with me on this. I'll be bringing Per Mertesacker back in the heart of our defence. I think if we are going to stick with a three, I think you have got to bring Per in, and I'd like to see maybe Per, Nacho and Koss, but it's very, very difficult if Mustafi's out for 6 weeks and Chambers still ain't about and Gabriel's gone. And does that mean he can't persist with a three? I mean, he toyed with El Neni at centre-back, Maitland-Niles at centre-back in pre-season, almost preempting that something like this would happen. And I just pray that we don't end up in a situation where we are shoehorning players like Mo El Neni or like Maitland-Niles and someone into these positions, or even Kolasinac. I really don't want to see the lad at centre-back, because I think we'd lose so much at wing-back by putting one of the other guys at, do you know what I mean? I think it'd make an adverse effect on us. So it's going to be a big 6 weeks for Arsene, because he's going to have a lot of, if that is the length of Mustafi's injury, and it could be, he's got some big decisions to make, and there's going to be times in games where, if we are calling upon young Rob Holding, he's going to need an experienced arm over his shoulder, much like in the cup final. But it's a bit of a sticky situation.
Dave, the cup final 3, would you play them? I mean, there's no. You wouldn't.
No, I mean, I don't know why I said I would agree with that. I wouldn't agree with that at all. I'm not a Perth fan. I never have been. And even if I did think he should play, which I probably think in this situation he should. As I said many times before, there's been loads of times when Per Mertesacker should play and Wenger still doesn't play him. The cup final was the one exception from January when he's been fit. So of all the games in the Premier League or big matches where Per's been fit, he's played one time in about 35 games. So I'll be surprised. And I think if Koscielny's fit, which I think he probably will be, it'll be Holding, Koscielny and Monreal, would be my guess. And let's hope that Callum Chambers is fit as soon as possible.
You wrote a blog, just going back to Ramsey, you did write a blog today about Ramsey, and we had a discussion about it this morning. I think other people you've had a separate discussion about Ramsey. Just for those that don't know, tell us what you wrote, Dave.
I just thought it was a very fair assessment of how I felt after watching him last night, really. I mean, I'm not going to change the fact that I said a couple of weeks ago, I think we should try and tie him down to a long-term contract, and perhaps he is captain material. But that doesn't change my view that he has limitations as a player. And I just guess it's either something has to change positionally within the Arsenal setup, or he has to say, right, I accept that this is my role. I'm playing in a double pivot. There's 3 players ahead of me who are responsible for creating, and now we've got wing backs. So there's 5 creative players or a striker that are more given the role of creating and scoring, and that's no longer my role in the side, and he has to accept that and knuckle down and be a very, very good central midfield player, or he has to hope that the manager changes or the formation changes. Because despite the fantastic performance in the cup final, fantastic performance against Chelsea, that's what's even more frustrating, because we all know he can do that and he can show that discipline and he can play that role, but I just get frustrated that he doesn't accept that is his role and play like that all the time. Because if he does, I think he can be a club great. If he doesn't, I don't think he can. And I just think it's that discipline and that acceptance of his role in the side that he needs to adapt to in his mind. That's basically what I was saying. And obviously it was on the back of the fact that he was incredibly disappointing, despite the Joe Allen situation and having to drop. He dropped into the role he plays for Arsenal, so that's not a reason why he should have played poorly. He was abject last night, and it's sort of probably the worst I've seen him play for about 2 years.
Ax, what did you make of his performance? And I'm not. This is nothing on what Dave said, but I did notice last night a lot of people started the Ramsey narrative that, he's overrated, he's overhyped, he's this, he's that, this is the Ramsey we've come to expect, or we should accept, and blah blah blah. I mean, what's your thoughts? I know you've been quiet, but what are your thoughts?
It's the Ramsey debate's kind of gone on for a while now, hasn't it?
And it will always rage on, won't it? As long as
I think it will. I think when you're not, people sort of want you to be a Steven Gerrard or a Frank Lampard scoring 20 goals a season, or a Paul Scholes with that vision, or a hard tackling Patrick Vieira. Football has changed a little bit. Aaron Ramsey is a different player to all of them. And Ramsey's kind of career to date has always been debatable. I think maybe for a couple of months before that leg break was the one period where it was swaying more towards kind of positive, more towards 100% than the 0%, if you know what I mean. But apart from that, there's always been kind of, I wouldn't like to use the word issues, but there's always been things that have happened. Obviously we talked about Gary Speed a little while ago, the leg break, the kind of playing in that holding position for a little while, playing on the right, which potentially. I mean, that was a weird one a couple of years ago when he was playing on the right. Yeah, Arsenal were playing some brilliant football. If you remember in that Man United game when we beat them 3-0 at the Emirates, and Ramsey played on the right. So his life's always been like that. But I mean, generally, I think he's done well this season. I think him and Granit Xhaka are developing a partnership. He obviously has a different role for Wales. He probably has he has a different sort of type of pressure as well for Wales. I mean, and the last international tournament obviously really kind of, his reputation in Wales probably grew even further because of the tournament he had. So the pressure on the lad was obviously huge. So it's just, I just think he just needs a run of games again, like he's had this season, alongside Xhaka, if that's going to be the partnership. And we just sort of got to back our man a little bit now. I think it's coming to a stage where, it's obviously contract renewal time now for him. He's got, just over a year and a half left on his contract. They will be talking. So I think it's just time to, back our man a little bit and just think if him and Xhaka are going to play there, then we just back him.
It was, without going back to what's his best position and what's not his best position. I mean, when we look back at his career, came here as a very young lad, and I have to say, Akhil, it wasn't a few months before the leg break. I think he was playing really well. I mean, if his leg hadn't been broken, we might have been talking about Ramsey as, one of the best midfielders of his generation.
No doubt.
I mean, he used to dance around the pitch. I remember I think it was a Portsmouth game in particular. I remember. I mean, he was absolutely brilliant in one of those games, and that was just one game that I could pick out of many at that time. And the injury really set him back a good few years confidence-wise and getting back into it. And, and then people now say that that 13-14 season was his awakening, if you want, for a better word. That summer of, it was like that lucid moment, and that's never going to be recaptured again. So I wonder, is he desperately trying to find himself? Or is he comfortable in his own skin now? Where do you see him? How do you see Aaron Ramsey?
He's an enigma, isn't he? Because he's always going to divide opinion. I mean, my personal beliefs in Aaron Ramsey, and the reason I do so venomously back him is, like you said, I mean, I remember going through a game, we played Sheffield United at home in the Cup, and we won 6-0, and him and Wilshere just patrolled that midfield, and it was at such a young age, and I knew all about Jack at the time, but I hadn't seen much of Ramsey, and he was only 17, and he absolutely run the show. He was spreading 50, 60-yard passes. He was back heel assisting. He was doing all sorts of things, and I watched him and I thought, well, do you know what? He's 17 years old. The build he was, the stature he had, the amount he could get around the pitch at that age, everything about him, I thought, we have got one hell of a player here. And like you said, I backed the Aaron Ramsey, broke into the first team. He started really controlling it. Then he got that horrific leg break. But I think the reason that I warm so much to him, and I believe in his abilities, and I believe in what he can do for the club still, is that he had the mental attitude to come back. He started from scratch again. He went back on loan to Cardiff. He come back. He worked so hard. He scored 19 goals in the season, 18 in the season, won us the FA Cup that we hadn't won a trophy, do you know what I mean, for 9 years. He completed the fairy tale story in most people's eyes. But for me, that is maybe just the beginning. But the issue since then is, like Axe and you have all touched on, he's had different moments and he's playing different positions and all that. But I just believe in the man that went out and covered the highest distance in the history of the FA Cup against Man City, then had a stormer in the final. The guy we've seen man of the match at Stamford Bridge in a big game alongside Xhaka in a balanced side. I believe in that man. I believe in the player that was in the Euros team of the tournament in the summer. Like, I like him as a man. I like him as a footballer. I've warmed to him. But I just think he's got all the tools in the box. And I completely understand people's reservations about him and saying he doesn't do this, he doesn't do that. And we talk about positionally and all that. But I mean, I've seen games this season when Ramsey was playing at 10, and then he was higher than him a lot of the time. It was just a tactical ploy from Arsene Wenger. It's obvious. So I think that until we start seeing, and we did see at Stamford Bridge, an actual unit, an actual balance, an actual side, we were fantastic. And with regards to Ramsey, people obviously know that he's got ability, which is why he is so sort of in the spotlight all the time. And I think the main frustration with people is they want to see the consistency. They want to see and Aaron Ramsey. Not so much a Ramsey scoring 18 goals, but one who is constantly involved in the game. And I think everything he does is glorified so highly. If he makes one error, it's a massive error, and it's just because of the way he is. But he's not a world-class footballer. He can be a great footballer. He really can be a great footballer. We'll never know how much that injury did set him back. But when I look at him now, and when I look at Arsenal Football Club, I do think I'd build that partnership of Xhaka Ramsey and have the balance and keep a continuity between them and consistency in the side and just see where it goes. I mean, realistically this season, with Jack coming back in, if Jack was fully fit, there's going to be a great challenge there. But for now, I think we need to stick with these two guys and believe in them and give them the opportunity and give them the chance to really go for it. But I just hope it goes well for Ramsey. And for me, this could be a defining season because with all the contract renewal and the way the club is at the moment and Arsene Wenger's future nearly up and all that, like Dave sort of said, it's either make or break really. Gets that big long contract and we tie him down and the captaincy could be there, or he leaves. So we're going to have to see what happens. But I hope it's the former, and I really do believe that he could be a guy to go from strength to strength. I just want to see him stay fit because at the moment he looks fitter than he's ever looked since his injury. Do
you think he's comfortable in his own skin now? I
didn't even answer your question.
No, that's fine.
Do I think?
Or do you think he's still searching for his right self?
No, I think he is aware of what type of player he is. It's really difficult to see because, I mean, we speculate all the time about players' roles and players' positions and all that, but we really don't know what they're being told, and we can come to conclusions, and we do see scenarios where you look at it and think, bloody, what is he doing there? And I genuinely don't think that Aaron Ramsey's thinking, do you know what, bollocks to this, I'm just going to do what I want and run up really high and make sure we can see goals and get caught on the counter-attack, because we've seen him do other performances where that isn't the case, like against Chelsea, where he's deeper, picks his moment, so unlucky, nearly won us the game. So there's a lot more to it. I think he is comfortable in the player he is. I just think that he's getting to a stage in his career now, and he's getting to an age where he needs to start taking games by the scruff of the neck and really standing up and being counted. And that's where Ramsey will be defined as a player, because in that role he does need to do that. So hopefully he can take that on board now.
Dave, I'll finish this section off with you. I mean, is there a middle ground with Ramsey?
I hope so. I think maybe it might be as simple as in the big games he takes on the responsibility, and in his own mind, it might even be subconsciously in the lesser games he thinks he can get away with, perhaps the Roy the Rover stuff that is what's within him and what he wants to do. I don't know if it's that simple, but I just think, look, if you look back at Patrick Vieira, probably our greatest ever box-to-box midfield player, you don't think, he scored lots of goals, but he was still one of the greatest players who ever pulled on, the gun, pulled on the cannon. So I just think Ramsey needs to, I think he can be a great player if he just accepts the role. And I don't think that role right now in this setup is what he probably wants it to be. But I just think if he accepts what it is, it's his partnership with Xhaka, as was said, it's there. No one's challenging them. No one's looking to change that partnership, I don't think. I don't think Wenger is. So if he just accepts it and plays every week with the same discipline that he played against, in those big games that was as described, if he plays the same against Watford and the lesser teams, he can be a great. But he has to accept the role. And I'm just not convinced mentally that he has accepted that is his role in the side as it's set up today.
Okay. All right. Let's move it on. Akhil. Earlier today, Richard Scudamore, met with the FSF and representatives of the Premier League clubs, like fans, representatives. Give us an update. What's going on with the Christmas Eve game? What's going on there?
A 4:00 game has pretty much been ruled out. And by them ruling out the 4:00 game, without ruling out the whole day, you would think that they're looking at an early kickoff. So that's going to be that's probably the debating point. I think they're going to delay the TV fixtures for that sort of weekend, and certainly that game for a while. It was due to come out on the 12th on Thursday, but it doesn't look like it will now, in terms of the Arsenal-Liverpool game. So it's a bit of a waiting game, I think. I think clubs are still putting their case forward. They're making sure they can get security. They want the police's sort of opinion on it. So yeah, there's not much really has changed apart from a 4 o'clock kickoff is ruled out. But I think deep down we knew it wouldn't be on at 4 o'clock. I think if you look at the sort of last trains back to Liverpool, they're around 5 o'clock for the day. So you would think if anything's going to happen, it'll probably be a 1:30. I think maybe 12 o'clock might be just a bit too early. I'm not sure Sky will get much of a spectacle then. So I think 1:30 looks.
The local authorities.
Yeah, because it's obviously a busy weekend, isn't it? You've got Friday night, and then you've got Christmas Eve Saturday, you've got Christmas Day Sunday, you've got Boxing Day Monday. So it's a long weekend. It's a tough one. But if I was a betting man, I'll probably say 1:30 on Christmas Eve. But yeah, we'll have to wait.
Why can't they just leave it on the 23rd? So ridiculous.
Yeah, well, obviously Sky have 3 games a weekend, so I don't think they can fit 3 in on the Saturday, because of slots and stuff like that. So the game is worth 14 million to them, if it's played on a Sunday, because that's what their 4 o'clock kickoff usually is, if it's sort of 2 of the top 5, or 2 of the top 6 now, sorry. So it's because of that really. Sky pay a lot of money, and that's money clubs are happy to take, happy to use, happy to buy the top players. So it is a tough one. I think it's a decision the Premier League needs to make with the police really, and with clubs from a security point of view. But obviously it could be, Arsenal saying that we just can't get the stewards. Well, other clubs could then potentially, that could slightly open the doors a little bit, and you may have clubs, in a massive game when they've got a few injuries, kind of start to play a bit dirty and use similar excuses. You don't know. So I just think they won't want to set set anything up there.
I'll tell you what's interesting is 22 extra games are going to be broadcast next season, and if I read it correctly, they're thinking of running games at the same time. So we could have a situation where we have, say, an Arsenal on Christmas Eve, as well as a Liverpool, a Man United, or a Man City game on Christmas Eve as well.
Yeah, I don't think they would ever run 2 top teams at the same time, in terms of they'll never run a Chelsea versus Man City and Arsenal versus Liverpool at the same time.
But they might have the top teams playing, not playing each other.
Yeah, they could, but I don't see the value in that. I see the value in that when it means something. So I fully see the value, of showing both when they're in the Champions League. If it's a match day 6 and there's still, something in it. I see at the end of the season when, it's potentially a title race or whatever, or a relegation battle. But I think Christmas is quite early to be doing that. But
they said bank holidays anyway, didn't they? They did say it will probably be bank holidays.
They should just go 12, 2 and 4, or 12, 2 and 5:30 on the 23rd. I mean, they've had 3 games. They've had 3 live games on a Sunday before. They've had 3 live games on a Saturday. I don't see the argument. I really don't.
Well, no, you can't have that game at 2, because at 3 o'clock there can't be any football played, I don't think, on TV. So if you remember from the El Clasico, it's happened a couple of times in the last few years where it started in Spain at 5 or something like that. So actually here, we haven't been able to watch the first half or the first 30 minutes. There's been times where we've had to join the Clasico 30 minutes in because of the the time thing. So I don't think it could be a 2 o'clock kickoff.
Well, the game's on the Sunday. 24th is a Sunday, so.
Yeah, no, but if it was on the 23rd.
Okay.
But you could still do 12. You could do 12, 4 and 7:45 then.
Yeah.
Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Let's move on.
I don't think there's a slot at 7:45 on a Saturday. You still have to stick to the traditional sort of kickoff times. That is my understanding. So you can still do a 12:45 or a 12:30, whatever it is nowadays. You can still do your 5:30, but then on Sunday you can do a 12, you can do a 1:30, you can do a 2, or you can do a 4, but you can't potentially, not that it would happen on Christmas Eve, but you can't just do it 8 o'clock on a Sunday. That's because of then you've got European rules and then things like that. BT show French football on a Sunday night, so there's all sorts of rules. I think it's it's not as easy as that.
I do think the landscape.
It's the 23rd of Sunday then.
It's a Saturday, yeah.
Saturday. So there's only 2 games allowed to be shown on TV.
Right. And then all 3 of them are Sky. There's no BT game at 5:30 on Saturday.
There might be, yeah. I can see the landscape changing, and I think it will go American. It will go American at some point. You know, we'll see games running concurrently at the same time, simultaneously at the same time on different channels and so on and so forth.
Oh yeah. It could definitely change.
Yeah.
Just not this season.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So last topic, Overmars. This story came out yesterday about Overmars possibly being invited for a role here at Arsenal at the end of the season, to which James Oddie today said, and I quote, he said, where is it? He said, Arsenal pretty adamant no agreement has been reached for Overmars to join the club in any capacity. And that made me think, well, no agreement. Does that mean they're talking about something? I mean, if they weren't talking, surely Arsenal would say, we are not in any talks. This is complete fabrication, blah, blah, blah. So I wonder, are they in discussions about some role or something for Marc Overmars to do? Is there a director of traffic role that Wenger's happy to give him?
Director of traffic.
There are some roadworks outside, actually.
I'll give it a green light on that one.
I did drive by on Saturday, and there was temporary traffic lights, and maybe he does need someone to just point cars in the right direction.
I mean, Axe, staying with you, I mean, what do you think to that story? Do you think this is taken to be a big, large dollop of salt?
I don't know. I mean, is this a part of the catalyst for change? I don't know. To be fair, I don't really know what sort of job Marc Overmars has really done at Ajax.
The backstory is he was brought into as a director of football. That didn't go brilliantly, so they gave most of that remit to Edwin van der Sar, and then they gave him the job of, transfer man. He was basically the transfer man, and it's a bit hit and miss. And this past summer, I think some Ajax fans were saying that they weren't too happy with his business. But yeah.
I mean, it's tough, isn't it? You got a sort of. I think it's very difficult for fans actually to judge things like that, because a lot of it is done in the background, in the back office, and for fans, I mean, yeah, we can judge Marc Overmars as a player, but I find it difficult to judge him as either director of football or the transfer fixer. I mean, if you talk to people within the club and within football, Dick Law is rated very highly, but if you talk to a lot of fans, they don't have anything positive to say about him. But it's a difficult one. So I don't know. All you can say is Marc Overmars is certainly, was an Arsenal man for a few years. I mean, yeah, all right, he went to Barcelona fairly early, but he was well respected. He is on good terms with the club. He played in the recent charity game against AC Milan last season. He looked like he got on quite well with Arsene Wenger. So I don't know. I mean, for me, this is all part of the bigger picture, and that's Ivan Gazidis starting to plan for the future. And I know people are quite critical of Ivan and things like that, but I've always believed that Ivan Gazidis is someone who's he's in the middle of a very stubborn manager, and he's also with a non-existent owner, really, majority shareholder, who doesn't take the interest. It is very much like, you and Arsene run the club, and then every time there's maybe a decision to be made, Arsene Wenger seems to be the one to make it. So it seems to me that it's very much about for the future. So, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if, this is just a theory that I'm throwing out there, but it wouldn't surprise me if someone like Marc Overmars comes in, because he does get on with Arsene Wenger. Maybe Arsene Wenger thinks, actually, yeah, I can quite get on with Marc Overmars because I used to manage him. I still can unofficially, but he can help me. And then when Arsene Wenger does move on, whether it's in a year and a half or whenever, Marc Overmars' role then develops. But Marc Overmars might not be the personnel in that role, if you know what I mean. But the role is already there.
Yeah.
There's an infrastructure there. And then you might have someone else come in who couldn't work with Arsene Wenger maybe, but, who's could do a good job. So I think there's something in that, maybe just to kind of open the door a little bit to the role rather than the person.
Wenger said he just, the only role he could give somebody is director of traffic role. I mean, do you see Marc Overmars? Akhil made a really good point. The player and the administrator are two different things, and people do get hung up on, the player and what he was and so on and so forth. He could be a completely different animal as an administrator. But I mean, where do you see him fitting in? Say this story is true. I mean, where do you see him fitting in Wenger's regime? And how effective could he be?
I honestly can't understand how Arsenal would allow this role to occur, even though, obviously we heard this whole Catalyst for Change story all summer. There was reports of someone in this role coming in the summer to help Arsenal this summer and give him the whole reason he was having a new 2 years because things were going to change and all that. And we've employed this guy, this transfer contract guy and all that. Look, at the end of the day, Arsene Wenger's still the manager. He's still going to be here for the remainder of his contract. I cannot personally see him allowing someone like Marc Overmars to take control of transfer situations and that. And realistically, would Arsenal allow someone, would he allow Ivan Gazidis to appoint someone for a season, for his last season, possibly at Arsenal Football Club? I don't know. I can't sort of see it. I personally, if it was going to happen under Arsene Wenger, I thought it would have happened this summer. And we might have seen the change then. And I can't understand why, with only 12 months left of his Arsenal career, 21 years into it, he would all of a sudden accept to have something different at the club. It's just me being a bit,
cynical.
Maybe a bit short-sighted there, but I just can't see the change occurring before Arsene leaves. And in an ideal world, we would make these changes as Arsene is phasing out, but realistically, Arsene's been phasing out for sort of the last 6 years now, if you're going to be brutally honest. So
yeah, just to add there, Stan Kroenke, as much as we dislike him and we don't think he's the active owner we want, he's a very rich man who's got a lot of business interests. His wife's obviously got big business interests with Walmart. He's not a silly man. We had the AST the other week. We're talking to Jeremy Wilson, who met him. It was a good sort of 7 years ago, maybe now. But the impression he got was Stan Kroenke's not a silly man. And I don't think you can be when I say successful, in terms of wealth, if you're quite daft. And I think he would certainly have when he gave Arsene Wenger this 2-year contract, I just can't believe that he wouldn't have thought a bit about transition. He wouldn't have put in there a little bit that, okay, we do have to think about what's going to happen when you go. It might be in 2 years, it might be in 4 years, but I can't really imagine.
No.
And and for that, I just think that, potentially there could be a lot of mind games going in there. With Arsene Wenger sort of ticking the box that, okay, transition, okay, this role comes in. Who's someone I can work, as I just mentioned before, who's someone I can work with, who's someone I can kind of unofficially manage. And if Marc Overmars fits that bill, and if you're right and Marc Overmars isn't happy at Ajax, fans aren't happy with him, then it's a bit of an exit for him as well. Then it kind of makes sense, really, because I find it hard to believe that, Stan Kroenke will just let sort of Arsene Wenger do anything he wants for 2 years and then potentially disappear. But then, as I say that out loud, actually, I think, well, maybe he could actually. But I don't know. I just think, you can't be that rich and be that stupid, really. So I just think, I don't know, maybe Stan Kroenke just wants anyone in the role and Wenger's identified Overmars as someone he can work with.
Dave, the end of last season, Overmars was asked about coming in as in some capacity to Arsenal, and he said that he wasn't really excited by it. So maybe he was thinking,
Did he?
Yeah,
How dare he?
And fast forward a few months now, when we're coming here. I mean, do you agree with Axe that he could be given a role like a gardening role, like just trim the hedges for the next 12 months, and then once Wenger's out, you can come in and get your hands really dirty.
I really don't know. I unlike a lot of people on Twitter, I'm not an expert on the director of football role. There do seem to be an awful lot of people on Twitter who know every single director of football around Europe. I wonder what they do in their spare time other than read about these sort of things.
I do work as well, I do work as well.
I wasn't talking about you, James. Honestly, I wasn't.
I was.
What I think my intelligent contribution to this element of the debate is, I just have this vision, like a sitcom, of new people coming into new offices at Highbury House with their name on the door, with a desk, a phone, a laptop, and somebody to make their coffee. And they're still sitting there after months asking what they're supposed to be doing. I think Jens Lehmann has a desk at the moment somewhere. And I think Marc Overmars might be in the room next to Jens Lehmann, doing things that no one knows what they're doing, and then just saying yes to Arsene Wenger every now and again. I think that's about as intelligent a contribution as I'm prepared to make.
Yeah, we'll see how this
sounded like an episode of that old Sky One show, Dream Team, there, didn't it?
Well, it was like the IT crowd, the girl in the IT crowd. She's put down in the basement. Yeah. She doesn't even know what the internet is, but she's head of IT. That's exactly what it is, really.
Yeah, interesting. All right, let's move it on. Okay, Watford on Saturday. What tips we got from Bookie, mate? Axe? Whilst you think about that, whilst you're doing research, I'll ask the other guys.
I'm sure you do that on purpose to him every time.
All right, Dave. So what was? Let's go to you. Was Saturday? Come on, give us your predictions. What do you reckon?
5-2 Arsenal.
5-2 Arsenal. Who's scoring the hat trick?
I'm hoping that Lacazette is going to get a few. But if you look back through the years, there has been lots and lots of goals between us and Watford, and this season at home, as I said, they had the 6-0 against City, the 3-0 against Liverpool. So they even lost 3-2 at home against the Championship side in the Cup. So I think there's going to be goals and goals and goals, and with our centre back situation, I'm not sure we'll keep a clean sheet, but yeah, hopefully we get 5. It'd be nice, mate. To be fair, 3 points would be great. I mean, we can't take it for granted. They're a decent side, Watford, but I think it'll be a bit of a spectacle and it'll be quite an enjoyable game.
And who's your lineup?
Lacazette is favourite to score first, by the way, at 14-5.
14-5. What's your lineup?
The question is, will Ozil be assisting those 5 goals?
Well, he's gonna have to, unless he assists all 5. He's gonna be getting a right hammering, isn't he? So he's gonna.
I don't even know if he's gonna be selected.
No, exactly. So, well, with regards to the lineup, I mean, as Dave said, he's not. I don't think he's going to play per. So we could well, if Koscielny does make it, we could well be seeing Monreal, Koscielny holding, Kolasinac, Bellerin, Xhaka, Ramsey. Will he go Alexis? I don't think. Is he playing tonight, Alexis?
Tomorrow. They're playing on the 11th.
It's tonight, isn't it? So it's about 12:30.
Oh, okay.
Oh, it is this morning, yeah. So he's with travel and that, he might well be on the bench. So he might start Mesut and maybe he might start Iwobi, depending on how fit he is.
So you think Iwobi and Mesut, yeah?
Yeah, but I mean, he could well go with starting Giroud and putting Lacazette just behind, and you got Theo as well. I don't want to forget about him, because he could be effective in a game like that. But yeah, to be honest with you, I ain't got a clue what he's going to do, mate. So I'm going to stop making it up.
I got to say, it's at the moment, it's one of the toughest periods to actually guess the lineup, because it's easy on paper, but it's so hard to know that. This Ozil thing, is he being phased out? And again, with Ozil, you just think, to me, from the outside, it looks like in the summer he was putting out a lot of good PR. His team were doing good, and they were all hinting that he's gonna sign a new contract. And he played pre-season, he started the first few games, everything was going well, and then he's kind of just, nothing's happened on the contract front, and he's just now getting these mysterious injuries. He's coming back for 7 minutes against West Brom, and then we haven't seen him again. He's kind of vanished again. So you just don't know that. Is he kind of being phased out a little bit for a move in January?
Well,
so
you have to assume, though, Akhil, that if he's not selected for Germany, it's a genuine injury. I mean, he wasn't in the Germany squad, was he?
But there are times when they've qualified before, they've kind of left him out before. Like
they've done that twice.
They've done it.
They've dropped him. They've rested him when there's been a tournament that they've already qualified for. So again, you can see that because I remember Lowe actually said it when he rested him, because he doesn't get his winter break anymore from when he moved from Madrid to Arsenal. That Lowe thinks he'll give him a bit of a break, because otherwise in the summer he's just going to not get a good rehearsal. So it's difficult. And then again with Sanchez, it's just difficult to know if he's going to...
Well, he'll be banging down Wenger's door. You can imagine he'll be banging down Wenger's door and Coney on Friday morning saying, I'm ready. You better
Well, it depends, doesn't it? It depends how their game goes against Brazil and what happens with qualification and stuff. Again, he could be someone who could come back actually very low. Yeah. Very, very low if they haven't, We said that Ramsey might not be affected because I think maybe it's a little bit different. But with Sanchez, someone who doesn't really want to be here, Chile we all know how important Chile is to him. But I think if they do pull something off and he has a good game, then he's going to come back absolutely, banging that door down. But it's just difficult to know.
Okay, so your lineup?
Gee, sorry mate, just quickly want to say I forgot about Jack. I can't believe I forgot about Jack. So I was waiting for my moment on Jack. Yeah, Dave, I know you was going to have me. I had to get in there before you had me about it. I'll play Xhaka, Ramsey, Jack and Ozil behind Lacazette. That's what I'll do. Sorry, bye-bye.
Okay, all right, that's nice. Axe?
Again, it's tough. It's tough to know. It was, I would consider giving Alex Iwobi a game just because he might be high in confidence. But it's hard to know, Olivier Giroud again, high on confidence, became the joint 7th top goal scorer for France ever. So I don't know. It all depends on how they come back.
Can you see Iwobi and Jack? That's a natural lefty and a righty in two behind. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think I see that, to be honest. But
that's more for Red Star Belgrade.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if Ozil's fit, he plays in your lineup.
I would say so. Yeah.
And Dave?
Yeah, I'll go the same back five. As I said previously, I think it will be Holding, Koscielny and Monreal. I think it will be the two wing backs as usual. I do think he'll stick with Ramsey and Xhaka. I do think he'll play Ozil and Lacazette, and I think he will play Iwobi and not Sanchez. But this is the day that Jack gets his first Premier League minutes this weekend. I'm convinced of that.
And your prediction?
I think Jack will come off the bench this weekend.
And the noises Arsene Wenger has made has been positive as well. He wants...
About time.
He's hinted about 10 games, play 10 games without... a lot of people have come out and said 10 games in a row, but I don't think he said 10 games in a row. It was more about just play 10 games without getting injured.
Well, Gareth Southgate's desperate for it as well.
Yeah, exactly. So, I agree. I think we might see Jack at some stage.
He did make 30 appearances last season, though. We've got to remember that. And in about 6 or 7 games in a row, he made 80-plus minutes. So he did prove that last season. But I think unless he gets the chance to do it at Arsenal, how can he prove it? So, come on, Jack. We all want Jack to do well, don't we? So,
yeah, of course.
Prediction, Akhil, and then Dave.
Bookie tells me that Arsenal are clear favourites at 7-10. So I'm going to go for a 3. With our dodgy centre backs potentially, I'll go for a 3-1, which I think was the score last year too.
Dave.
Yeah, I was going to say 3-1. Yeah. I think actually they've unearthed a bit of a gem in that Richarlison, haven't they?
They have.
He's really playing well. He's a live wire. So I think they will score. But yeah, I think 3-1 to the Arsenal.
Coolio. All right, let's bring it to a close.
What was Woz's?
Woz says 5-2, didn't he? 5-2, mate.
Giles, yours?
I think 3-2 Arsenal. I think we'll ship a couple of goals if we haven't got our defence right. And I think, as Dave said, Richarlison and Gray form a good partnership. They've got Decore, who's quite talented in midfield. I like Chalobah if he's playing. I like him. It's one to watch.
Injured, isn't he?
Is he injured? That's good then, But yeah, I think they're quite lively at home. So I think we'll prevail, but it might be a
Could be a thriller.
Yeah.
Could be a thriller.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Giles, as you know, we've introduced the Gooner Ramble bet, so we all have to agree on a scoreline, and we're gonna put some money on, and at the end of the season, we're gonna do this every game, every podcast, and at the end of the season, hopefully, we'll have some money that we've won, which we'll obviously give to a charity of our choice. So, should we agree? Is it 3-1?
The Tollington drinking fund.
Tollington Jack Daniels drinking fund. But should we? Is 3-1? I mean, there's two of us went 3-1.
Yeah.
Yeah, fine. 3-1.
No, that's 3-1 Arsenal. Done.
Oh, and before we go, you've got you would mention a charity that is very dear to your heart. You want to let everyone know about that?
Yeah, mate. Oh, it's very kind of you, and thanks for the people who donated. Basically, we just done one of my really good friends. His mum, unfortunately, got Alzheimer's. She's only 52, and she's basically in a home, and very she doesn't even know who he is. So it's very sad. And we basically just went and done a charity run. I say a run, it was more of a waddle, and it was a big struggle, and I can still barely walk now because me and fitness don't go hand in hand, but it's with the obstacles and all that, one of them. So it was only 7.5 miles, but do you know what? It was a cracking day, and we raised in total over £800 for the charity. So yeah, so it's really good. And thanks for letting us mention.
How do people donate if they still want to donate?
If they still want to donate, I'll tweet up the Just Giving page. But it's very kind of you, and thanks for everyone who did help, and thanks for putting it out there. But all these, it's always great to try and donate to charity because you never know when things might affect you. That's the way I like to look at it.
Indeed. Quite right. Okay, let's wrap it up there. I want to thank the three amigos, Dave, Axe, and Wads for coming on, lads.
Cheers,
who's going down to Vicarage Road? I take it you are Axe and you are Was?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm still looking for a ticket, so if anybody knows, catch me on my new handle @_Whinger. Don't ask any questions. Don't ask the questions.
What happened there?
I'm gagged. Pleading the Second or the Fifth Amendment or whatever they call it. It happened. I had an argument with Twitter. They won, and that's it. So.
They've won 5 in a row there, so I think you should probably take the hint, mate, that you're not going to win. You're not going to win. Stop the rematch.
So, I think you should be the inverted www.ker at this rate.
Oh, thank you very much, Dave. Thank you very much. You're on one tonight, ain't you?
Was just got that.
No, all I've done was unmuted myself.
Cool. All right, let's wrap it up there. It's been a good Ramble. I've been your host, Giles. Thanks for listening. Up your Arsenal.
Up the Arsenal. This episode of the Gooner Ramble podcast is sponsored by the new app called Bookie. That's BOOKEE. Sign up by using the promo code Ramble, deposit and bet £10 and get a free £10 bet. That's Bookie, BOOKEE.